So the PlayStation Portal, is it worth getting in 2025? Is it any good? Is it just a waste of space, a waste of money? It's a little bit of a complicated answer that I'm going to try to do my best to explain here in this video, because I think it kind of depends on the person. But we're going to be talking about that here in this video. This is going to be sort of, I guess, like a PlayStation Portal 2025 review. It is worth noting that I did not own this at launch, so if you want someone to compare it to how it was at launch compared to now, all I can explain based off of the kind of launch performance is the research I've done. And I've done a lot of research, I think, so I can contribute something to the conversation, even though it's not personal experience. All I can give you is personal experience with this thing, and I'm gonna have to preface this with a couple things really quick before we jump into this, just so you guys can understand where I'm kind of standing at. You know, the reason I got this, my internet setup and different things like that. So first things first, my console is hardwired with Ethernet connection. I do have fiber internet, so it's going to be gigabyte internet, right? 1,000 up, 1,000 down, roughly. I mean, obviously that fluctuates, but I would say ballpark, I'm getting about 800 up, 800 down on a good day, at least plugged in on my computer. The PS5, of course, you know, the network connection is never as good as it's going to be on your computer, even if it is both hardwired. So that is just worth noting. I do have the router that I have. Wanted to make sure I got it right. It's the Asus RT-AX86U Pro, which, if I recall correctly, does have Wi-Fi 6E, if I remember right. Anyways, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Point is, it's a pretty good router for the most part. That's going to be my wireless router, and I get pretty strong connections. Like if I was to do a speed test on my phone, for example, you know, I'm getting pretty good speeds. You know, probably at least in the 400 to 500 up and 400 to 500 down, which is way more than you really would need for something like the PlayStation Pro. Again, with the PlayStation Pro, it's not as much about how fast, how much, you know, upload and download you have. It's more about the stability. You want a stable connection, because if you don't have a stable connection, then of course, you know, you're going to be a lot of kind of, you know, drops, and it's not going to be as smooth of an experience. So that's kind of the main thing you want. Now, I've tested this thing in different parts of my house. So right where I'm sitting here in this kind of, you know, recording space, you know, I have the PlayStation Portal in my hand. My PlayStation 5 is right there behind the camera, So that doesn't really matter though, because it's not connecting directly to the PlayStation like this. Although, I mean, that would be a cool concept, but it's going over the Wi-Fi, right? Over the internet connection. Now, my Wi-Fi router is upstairs in my living room, and I've sat there and played with this thing there as well. And then I've also sat in my bedroom, which is above the living room. So we got 3 different floors, and I've played it there as well. And in each location, I feel like the performance is very similar. It might slightly be better around my router, but it's been kind of similar. Now, talking about some of the games that I've tried, because I think that's, you know, an important thing to note before we kind of talk about, you know, my thoughts and, you know, performance and different things like that. I've tried a few different games. You know, I've tried Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2. I love Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and of course, by the time you guys see this video, it might already be out. But they're getting like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3+4 that they've been teasing, so that's coming out, or it's already out by the time you see this. I don't know when you're going to see this video, but anyways, I've been playing with that. Now, with that game, I want to give a couple little tidbits with each, some different games. With that game, I felt like when I was doing rotations, right? Because you do a lot of spins, right? 180s, 360s, so on and so forth. When I'm doing rotations, I was always kind of overshooting my spin a little bit. If I wanted to do a perfect 180 or a perfect 360, I would always be kind of overshooting it by like an extra 30 to almost 90 degrees. And if you overshoot it by 90 degrees, I mean, you're falling off the board and you're messing up your whole combo, which is really annoying. And I'm not bad at the game. I'm not trying to sound, you know, egotistic or anything, but this is one game that I am definitely very good at. I have a signed skateboard from Tony Hawk proving it, because I was one of the winners in the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2 contest. And my point in saying that is not to be boastful, but to say, like, listen, you know, I know how to play the game. I'm good at this game, and you know, I don't over rotate very often. So to constantly be over rotating a little bit, you know, even if I don't bail off the board, what that ends up doing is it ends up messing up my trajectory, right? Because now I'm going in a little bit of a different direction because I'm not landing the exact way I wanted to. So that got a little bit annoying. I tried a couple other games. I tried Trials Fusion, which was interesting because you would think you need to be very precise. That one was actually okay. And then I tried some like first-person shooters. I tried different things like that. I tried Destiny 2. You know, I thought like, okay, listen, back in the day on the PS Vita with remote play and Destiny 1, I used to play that a little bit. It wasn't great, I'll admit, it wasn't great, but I was so into like the concept of it, like I didn't care, just being able to play like in bed or something, you know. It was a cool experience. So for nostalgic, you know, sake, I went back and tried it out. Again, I think this thing is not good for any kind of first-person shooter. All right, I tried Call of Duty as well. We'll talk about that in a second. I don't think it's good for any first-person shooter whatsoever. It is also worth noting any footage you see, you know, of me playing any of these games on the device itself. It was very hard to record that. You know, I was also looking at my monitor because the way my camera angle was, I couldn't really look at the screen on the PlayStation Portal. So I was probably even playing a little bit better than I should have, but even then it was awkward and I was not playing up to par. But anyways, so Destiny 2, it felt very wonky, right? It almost feels like you're aiming through mud. It feels like your dead zones are way off. It feels so weird. And then going to Call of Duty, it was the same thing, right? Again, first-person shooters. You want to play Call of Duty like multiplayer? I mean, there's just no way, especially if you're competitive. If you're super casual, maybe, but like even then, it just doesn't feel very good to me. It feels like, you know, I was just missing shots that I shouldn't be missing. You know what I mean? And again, COD, I'm not amazing necessarily. I'm not like the greatest COD player, but you know, I hold down. I would say I'm above average at least. But you know, I don't know. I think it's just with Call of Duty, Destiny, first-person shooters, not good whatsoever, and it just wasn't a fun time for me. I tried Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. Why did I try this game? Because it's a rhythm-based game, and this gives me sort of a sense of the delay, right? Because the idea of Melody of Memory is that it's a music game, right? Hit the notes as they kind of come by, and you know, whatever, kind of like Rock Band, Guitar Hero, and I really love that game. But so I tried that. I tried that for a while, and I mean, on beginner, now it's worth prefacing this by saying I've played through every song on proud mode. I've played through every song on standard mode. I'm working through doing all of them on beginner just for the platinum trophy. You have to do it. But I was playing mostly on beginner because I'm like, that's probably my best bet. I can get away with doing it on beginner. I can hit notes that would normally be excellent. I was getting like goods, or I'd miss them. So it was enough where I pulled off getting full chains. Full chains means you hit every single note in Melody of Memory on beginner, but it's not something I'd be comfortable playing on like definitely not proud mode, because there's too many notes and you're gonna end up missing a bunch, guaranteed. You're gonna end up probably failing, and maybe not standard. Beginner I could get away with, you know, a little bit, but it was very questionable because again, there's just that slight kind of, you know, it's just slightly off, right? And it's just drove me nuts. So far you're probably like, well, what's good? What's good on this thing? Well, we get to a couple other ones. We got Monster Hunter, which I felt like was something that I could make do with. Monster Hunter is the kind of game where it's like you need to be quick, but at the same time, the way the movement is in Monster Hunter, it's not as quick. It's not the kind of game that's as quickly responsive as a game like, you know, Call of Duty. If I move left, like Call of Duty is like instant, right? Like I'm saying, like even playing on like a normal console. But with a game like Monster Hunter, there's already that kind of chunky kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like your character feels heavier, right? Games like obviously Souls games as well are similar. I don't think I would play a Souls game though, because you have to be a lot more accurate with the bosses. But with Monster Hunter, I was able to do some decent monsters. I think if I recall correctly, I think I beat in Monster Hunter World, I beat the Pink Rathian on there, which I mean, it's not like, I don't remember how many stars. It's like probably like I think it was a 6-star monster. You know, it's up there, but it's not like insanely hard. I mean, depending on your skill level, I guess, but you know, generally speaking. But yeah, I don't know. I think Monster Hunter is a game you can get away with playing on it. And it's also worth noting, Monster Hunter Wilds is probably going to be out by the time you guys see this video. So the reason I didn't do Monster Hunter Wilds and I did Monster Hunter World is because I recorded all this before Monster Hunter Wilds came out, just as a preface. So that was good. And then games like Spider-Man. I played a little bit of Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales. I love that game. It's just everything's snowy too. I love the environment. I love Miles' suit. It's, you know, black and red. Anyways, I love the game, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Again, it's like, it's not as fluid as it would be if you just are playing on your normal PS5, but it was doable. It was manageable. And I think this is kind of getting into the area of where I think is good for this thing versus what's not good for this thing. I think story-based games seem to be okay. Unless it's a game, like I said, Souls games, you know, you want to play like Sekiro on this? Heck no. I would just never recommend that. You cannot be precise enough and quick enough. But games like Spider-Man, you know, maybe some games like, I didn't try God of War, but like probably God of War, you know, some other story-based games, you can probably get away with like The Last of Us. You might, when you're aiming, that's the thing, when I'm talking about first-person shooters, when you're aiming in The Last of Us with your gun, it might be a little wonky. But you don't, I mean, you have a little bit more forgiveness, you know, in terms of like how the gameplay is. So it might be a little bit easier to do something like that than, you know, Call of Duty or Destiny. But I think story-based games like that would be kind of where this thing would shine. And then like indie games. I think indie games that don't require a lot of precision. I think that's the thing. I've heard a lot of people say indie games been like a lot of what, you know, they've kind of played on this thing. Now it is worth noting that from what I've done research on, people say this is way better of a device than it was when it first came out, but it's still not the way it should be. Not the way, I wouldn't say the way it should be. I think it's probably as good as you're going to get with remote play right now, just because the technology is probably not advanced enough. If this thing came out like 5 years, 10 years, maybe it'd be better. But even then, you're always going to have those limitations. Now, it's also worth noting one other thing, or maybe two other things, and that is the fact that I'm a kind of player that I'm used to a low latency, you know, low response time monitor. I have a 1 millisecond monitor, been playing on a 1 millisecond monitor for a long time. I'm the kind of person that if I jump over to a TV that has a higher response time, well, like in the terms like it's slower, I can't play. It drives me nuts. I can't play on a normal TV because I feel the response time. It feels kind of like slow and muddy and clunky to me. And that's kind of the sense I got with this. So I think if you're already used to kind of like those slow response times, if you're used to playing on like a TV, you might not notice as much on this thing, this sort of kind of, you know, that latency. I mean, you'll probably still notice it. It's noticeable, but you might not notice it as much because some TVs are like, what, like 60 millisecond response time. And I think the PlayStation Portal, I think if I recall correctly, somewhere around 60 to 80 on average response time, you know, kind of like delay, I guess you would say. So it kind of felt similar to that, but a little bit worse than playing on a normal. It's like, for me, if I was to jump on a normal TV versus playing on the PlayStation Portal, I feel like it's a little bit worse on the PlayStation Portal in terms of response time than it would be on a TV, if that makes sense. Coming from someone who plays on a 1 millisecond monitor. Now, why did I even want to get this thing? Well, some of you may or may not have seen my previous video. I got the Asus ROG Ally X. Love that thing. It's such a great device, but I returned it because it's so expensive and I just could not justify the price, as great as it is. And it's so good. I mean, if you have expendable income, you know, for something like that, then great. But like, it was just kind of nagging at me, and I was like, man, as cool as this thing is, I just feel like I can't justify it, and I probably don't play handhelds enough to really justify keeping it. That's why I returned it. So then that's where I came in with the PlayStation Portal. I'm like, let me get this thing. Why? Well, you know, first of all, as a content creator, especially, spend a lot of time kind of in my little, you know, rock cave over here, you know, my little office, working on content and stuff throughout the day, right? I have a wife, I have 4 kids now. We just had our 4th, and I want to spend a little bit more time around them, even, you know, times when I would like to grind on a game. Let's say I want to grind a game to level up or something that I need to do something before being able to make content on it, for example, or just whatever else, or just play casually, but still at least be in the presence of my family. I wanted to be able to do that a little bit more, right? And so that's why I got this. I'm like, you know what, I could just, you know, play whatever. I could grind Monster Hunter Wilds when it comes out and just, you know, grind some of those farm some of those monsters in between kind of streaming or whatever else, you know, I plan to do in terms of content. And that'd be great, you know, because I could still just sit upstairs with them and do that. But anyways, it's just not working. It's not working for me. I don't really like this thing. It's one of those things that from my own taste, I would say only buy this thing if you can find it on sale. At the full price point, I can't recommend it personally, but again, I think it's a little bit subjective, right? Reviews are always subjective. I don't think I'm going to be keeping it because it just bugs me too much. It's just too much. It's just too much of an issue for me. And again, some games are really bad. Like I tried Hogwarts Legacy on it. Unplayable. I don't know why that is, by the way. I have no idea why some games are worse than others. I'm not really sure, you know, the whole tech science behind that, I'll be honest. But yeah, Hogwarts Legacy was weird, man. I couldn't even like, I don't know. I just couldn't with it. I gave up pretty quick. But yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts. And I guess my 2025 review on the PlayStation Portal is, you know, take it or leave it. Take what you want out of this. You know, again, I can't tell you whether to get it or not. I'm trying to give you as much information from my experience as possible. Last thing I do want to mention is that there is the cloud streaming that's in beta, but I did not get to try that because I don't have you need PlayStation Plus Premium, and I don't have Premium because Premium literally will cost you your kidneys and your liver, and I don't want to get rid of my kidneys and my liver, so I don't have PlayStation Plus Premium, and so I wasn't willing to, you know, up my subscription, because you can't just up your subscription for a month. It's like you're locked in for the rest of like your subscription, which is still quite a few months for me. I just renewed in like November, so yeah, I would have like a lot more to pay. I'd have to pay like $100 Canadian just to upgrade it. So I wasn't willing to do that just for this video. So I'm sorry, I can't give you any information on that, but I heard people say that it's pretty good, but I've also heard people say that it's worse than just your standard remote play. So I don't know. Do your research, but from my research, that's kind of the general consensus of what I've got. So do I recommend this thing? Generally, no. If you're focused mostly on story-based games and indie games, maybe. It feels kind of like a waste of potential. It's a really cool device. I mean, we got, in terms of like the hardware, it's basically a DualSense with a really cool screen in the middle, and the screen's beautiful, by the way. The screen's beautiful. The volume goes very loud. The rumble I had to turn down because the rumble is actually very, very loud. Thankfully, you can turn it down. I like to have some rumble. I'm the kind of person, I like those gimmicky stuff, right? The adaptive triggers and stuff. So I have that on, but I just put it a little bit lighter on this thing. But yeah, it's sleek. It feels really good in the hands. The thumbsticks are a little bit smaller than the PS5 DualSense controller, which feels a little funny, but it works. But yeah, it's just basically like a DualSense split in half, and you stick a screen in the middle. But you know, the missed opportunity is that this would have been amazing as a handheld device of some sort, you know what I mean? As complementary somehow to the PS5 kind of family, right? But as always, you know, as lately anyways, Sony seems to like come up with these devices that they just launch that leaves you scratching your head. You know, PS Vita, they launched, it was amazing, and then they just didn't really support it. PSVR, same thing. PSVR 2, same thing. We got a sick game, Horizon Call of the Mountain. Then it was like Sony just ghosted us on the PSVR 2. And then this thing came out, and when I first seen it, I was like, this is pointless and useless. And then I finally decided to try it, and I still think it's pointless and useless. So anyways, take it as you will. This has been kind of a long, ranty sort of style video. If you enjoyed it, if you found any value out of it, leave it a like, subscribe for more. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. Do you like this thing? Do you hate it? Are you somewhere in the middle? Are you still trying to decide? Maybe, like I said, maybe you already have one. But anyways, stick around for more content. We do variety gaming content here on the channel, and I hope to see you guys soon in another one. As for me, well, I'll just keep hoping I can find something that, you know, is portable. Wow, the Switch 2 is coming out, so I guess there'll be that. Looking forward to that. By the way, Nintendo content, link in the description below. I have a whole other channel for that. Till next one, game on. See you guys soon. Hey you! What are you doing? Join the Skeleton Army! Do it today! Don't wait till tomorrow, because tomorrow might never come. The Earth is gonna fade, that's inevitable. The next second of your life's not even promised, so you better think about where you're going, and you might as well just join the Skeleton Army. Plus, we do kind of like you a little bit, so it'd be nice to see you around here. But if you don't want to, hey, your loss. See you later.